President Trump had already set into place. Ms. Schreck is the director, I believe, of Life First here in Montgomery County, Texas. And we're going to bring her right to you in a moment here with Black Conservative Voice. We'll be back in a minute with her, and we'll begin our interview. Welcome back. You're watching the Black Conservative Voice with David Colbert here on the CTM News Network, the voice of truth. We would like to welcome our guest right now, Teresa Strack. She is the executive director of Life First here in Montgomery County. It's a pro-life organization. And we want to say welcome, Teresa.
Thank you, Pastor Colbert, for having me on. I'm honored.
Thank you. Well, we're going to be discussing these recent turn of events here in this Biden administration regarding the abortion legislation, all these different things that are going on. It's a very scary time for this country, especially for the pro-life people. Now, we had the most pro-life president in the history of this nation just to leave office, and now we have somebody that's on the opposite side of the fence. What do you think about this President Biden, who is now saying that he is supporting Roe versus Wade, and what will this do to the pro-life efforts in this country?
Well, it is a very troubling time. Even more so, what it's going to do to the pro-life effort is what is it going to do even further to our nation. There's a famous quote from Thomas Jefferson, one of our premier founding fathers, who said, "The care of human life and happiness, and not their destruction, is the first and only object of good government." It's the first and only object of good government to protect the very lives of our citizens. And we know that the right to life was the very first right enumerated in the Declaration of Independence. It was, acknowledged and put forth in our Constitution, I think in the 14th Amendment specifically. So it is a bedrock right and the foundation of our nation. So it's not surprising when we as a nation have not upheld the right to life, that we as a nation are now less and less upholding our rights to assembly, our religious liberties rights, our rights to free speech. All those rights, are all eroding. So this action by the Biden-Harris administration is very, very troubling.
Well, yes, it's extremely troubling when you have a woman get up, and she's the first female vice president. She gets up, and her claim to office and what she's going to do is she's going to make abortions more accessible to women's health needs. Give me a break. But I hear that it's going to enlarge his support too. He's going to enlarge his support for the abortion. Now, I don't know about this thing in Mexico. I don't know if you have any information on that at all in regarding the abortion issue. I don't know if we were supporting abortions in Mexico and President Trump stopped it, but there's something there that he's trying to turn back. Are you aware of that?
Yeah, that was just one of the things that President Biden reversed as far as the pro-life policy and the Mexico City policy. The Hyde Amendment, of course, that controlled and restricted abortion funding for going to end babies' lives in America. But the Mexico City policy was put in place to restrict funds going from the U.S. to promote abortion in other nations. I'm not quite sure why it got that name, Mexico City policy. Maybe it was first because of funds going to Mexico back in the day, but it really applied to all of our international funding. So it was a very good protection for unborn babies
Yeah.
across the world, because at least the U.S. wasn't going to be funding their demise. And now, unfortunately, the Biden-Harris administration has rescinded that protection.
Yeah, I'll ask you a couple more questions along that same vein. Now, I keep talking about this, and sometimes I'll say some stuff, and I may not necessarily know exactly where it comes from, but I have heard it before. But I've heard that the very act that supposedly prevent us from supporting abortions as a nation, as a government, has actually been put on the books, but has never really been enacted. In other words, there's something that keeps getting tabled in the Congress and in the Senate, or pretty much in the Congress, and it has never gone through. And now someone rose up in the last Congress to talk about trying to end that, which has never been enacted. We're still supporting abortion with government funding in this nation. I don't know what that is, but I believe that's the truth because I heard it come out of the mouth of somebody who's actually there trying to destroy that law that's already been put on the books. And I believe it probably was the Hyde Amendment or something to that nature. Do you know about
I
that? The
believe
fact that it has never been enacted.
Yeah, I believe what you're referring to is the funding, and I think it's almost 600 million now, about half a billion, that flows even with the Hyde Amendment in place. Our country still funds and gives money to Planned Parenthood at the tune of about, like I said, $600 million every year. And about 90% of that funding is channeled to them through the Medicaid program. So sadly, states like California, Medicaid funding goes to the states, and the states have a lot of latitude in how they're going to spend that money for health care in their state. And so there's some states, like I said, again, New York, California, that will actually allow for women to access Medicaid funding for abortion. So even with the Hyde Amendment, they're able to get around that because this is Medicaid funding for, quote, health care. Now, there's states like Texas, where we are, where actually today, February 3rd, was the last day that any money would flow to Planned Parenthood through the Medicaid program in Texas. So that's something for us to rejoice. Our Texas legislature removed all that funding in the last session. And that, like I said, that deadline, that last day they could receive even a trickle of funds from us was today. So that's reason for us to rejoice here in our state. But it's extremely sad and troubling that our tax money is in fact still going to take babies' lives in other states.
Yeah. Now, and of course, the date for abortions or where abortions are allowed have moved all the way up to almost the time of birth. So it's really getting ugly. Now, what I wanted to discuss with you now, I'm always talking about this because I did get this from a statistic when I went to one of your pro-life meetings. Now, what I want you to discuss with us is the statistics. If I remember correctly, I believe that African American women and African American abortions are at the top of the list in this nation. We have more abortions than any other race or group. Is that correct?
Sadly, that's very, very true. Currently, the CDC in their report from 2016, and it's always a few years behind because it takes time to, put together statistics. But in that report, the CDC reported that Black babies were aborted, made up 38%. 38% of all abortions in the U.S., whereas Black women only make up 7%. So you've got 7% of the population, and having 38% of the abortions. And it's extremely troubling because we know that prior to 1973 with the Roe v. Wade decision, polling showed that Black Americans did not support abortion. It was white Americans that were supporting abortion, having more abortions, even though they were illegal. But with Roe v. Wade and with Planned Parenthood rising up in prominence and really pushing abortion in the Black community, that narrative started to change. So again, to give even more further history, many of the early civil rights leaders like Fannie Lou Hamer, back in the day, referred to abortion as genocide. Jesse Jackson would refer to it as murder. And he even had this famous quote that he had back in 1977. He said, "We used to look for death from the man in the blue coat, and now it comes in a white coat," referring to the abortionists. This was Jesse Jackson. Now, by the time he decided to run for president in 1984, he had flip-flopped on that, and he had turned into a staunch abortion supporter. But early civil rights activists recognized that Planned Parenthood, started by Margaret Sanger, was a very eugenics-minded organization that was specifically targeting the Black community. And continues to do so. You know, I guess your folks may know that Planned Parenthood finally could no longer hide her racist writings and leanings, and they have now removed her name from both their annual award that they give and also the building there in New York City, which is their national headquarters. But their organization still operates under the founding principles that she put in place. So let me just give you, if you have time, just a couple of more other very startling. Other very startling.
So they're still operating under the same principle.
I'm sorry, say that again.
No, I'm saying they're still operating under the same principles. So what that's telling me is that these Democrats out here that telling us to vote for them and all this crap like this, they're still going after the Black community. Yet they're telling us, this Black History Month, should we talk about the history of abortion in this country? We're talking about it right here. You're telling people where some of our politicians, where some of our Black leaders in the Black communities have done over the years, how they started out respecting and loving lives of people in those communities, and now all of a sudden standing behind them to kill our babies. So what is that about? It's I don't know. I don't understand it, because we have people in this country. I go off sometimes. We have people in this country that are standing up behind this party, this Biden administration, all this garbage that they're doing. Yet a lot of them don't even support what they stand for. They don't even realize this is why in the last election we were talking about people waking up. Become awoke, because you think you're supporting something that's right and you're supporting something that's wrong. And forget left. It's right and wrong. It's always the way it's went. It's either right or wrong. But I don't want to keep going on to that. But let me ask you a question. You have the percentages on the African American. What about the percentages of Hispanics and whites and maybe other races? I'm just trying to get a general understanding. I want people to have numbers.
Yeah, there's a slight increase of the Hispanic community over their proportion, but only very slight. For the white community, there's less white babies than what their percentage of the population is, and the Asian community is less than what their population is. So it really is the Black population that has been exploited. And let me give you this startling statistic. Again, in New York City, again, home to Planned Parenthood, for the last years, going back at least to 2012, there are more Black babies' lives ended via abortion than being allowed to live. So there's more abortions of Black babies in New York City than there are births. And that is not true for every other ethnic group, whites, Asians, and Hispanics. There's more births than abortions in New York City, but not for Black babies. And that is, again, is the home of Planned Parenthood, very much pushing this genocide that they promote. I want to also just give you just a really great quote that's from Catherine Davis. She's with the National Black Pro-Life Coalition. But she had this to say that I think even beyond the moral aspect, think about as far as Black influence in our society and political power. She had this to say: the Black community doesn't have another 46 years to suffer at the hands of Planned Parenthood and other abortion providers, because 20 million Black lives have already been lost to abortion since 1973. That's more than the entire Black population in 1960s America. You know, the Black population should be larger than just 13% of the U.S. population if it had not been for the scourge of abortion.
Yeah. And that, you know, it's like this whole thing was set up, and this lady, she was a racist, but this whole thing was set up to decrease our population, to stop us from having babies, to kill those that come out. And to me, it's just foolish. It's a brainwash. They selling this bill of goods, and they don't see the real reason they're selling it. They want to keep us a minority. That's really what it is. They want to keep us a minority. I say if they had did this, we would have been one of the largest minority. Except the problem is, I see all these people complaining, saying, well, blacks are not being allowed this, blacks are not being allowed this. I'm a black man. And I can say for a fact that the Democrat Party, when I grew up in Maryland, where I grew up, they were the biggest liars that we ever dealt with. Because they would tell us all kinds of things. And yet, what did they bring us? They bought us welfare. They bought us more abortions, killing more of our babies, having more violence in the street because they were taking jobs and things that away from our community. And they were supposed to be helping the community. And they killed my hometown. My hometown was Baltimore. When I was in Baltimore, as Kim Clayton, she ran for Congress there. When I was in Baltimore, our population was 2.1 million. Now our population barely is 600,000. So people are leaving there in droves. The place looks like a ghost town. But let's go past that. That has nothing to do with what I'm talking about now, other than the fact that it would have been more black people there had they not had them killed through abortion. Now, I'm going to ask you one last question, and then we're going to let you go on about your day. But I do appreciate you coming out and joining us. What is the organization's next move and your efforts to continue to defend the rights of the unborn and to stop the killings of babies, pretty much?
Our main move with Life First is to try to get everybody to understand that they must take ownership within their sphere of influence to move our nation back to one that respects life. Because when people sit on the sidelines and say that's somebody else's problem, somebody else's responsibility, that's when things don't change. Yeah. And my brother, he has a great little quote that he told me once. Yes, always the truth. And he told me once, he said, you know, Teresa, there's only two people I trust, you and me. And you, I'm not so sure of. And his point was that we actually, as humans, we actually have a very small circle of people that in the end, we will really trust. And so, yes, we as society will listen to sports figures and celebrities and singers and all that. But when it really comes down to it, we're mostly going to listen to and be influenced by the people in our small circle of friends. So we as individuals need to educate ourselves on this issue and then be able to speak to the people in our sphere of influence, give them good information like we've discussed today, and then also speak to their heart, because make our decisions head and heart. So that's our main thrust, is to through prayer, education, inspiration, and directly being outside the abortion facilities, letting those women and men know about the area crisis pregnancy centers. We each have to take ownership and stop this. We can't wait for the federal government or anybody else, because when we get to that tipping point of an attitude change, then people will demand that life be protected. We've got to get to that grassroots tipping point.
Amen to that. Well, I want to thank you. We've been talking with Teresa Streck. She is the executive director for Life First here in Montgomery County, Texas. I want to thank you once again, Teresa, for joining me. It's been really enjoyable. Good seeing you again. Hopefully we'll get together in person soon. And I want to say, like I said, once again, it's nice seeing you again. Hopefully we'll get together at an event in the future. Once again, I want to thank y'all for joining us here on the Black Conservative Voice. We'll be right back with you in a moment. Welcome back. You're watching the Black Conservative Voice with David Colbert here on the CTM News Network, the Voice of Truth. I want to thank Teresa Schreck for coming and join us and enlighten us on the pro-life issues that are going on within this country. Here we are again with another report from Bizarro World, Biden administration. All I can say is, even so, come Lord Jesus. The New York Times is even questioning President Biden's use of the executive orders. And we saw earlier, when we did an earlier report, we told you that Joe Biden himself said that it would be like a dictatorship to use executive orders to push legislation through. Now, in the New York Times article, they say that the government is supposed to be run through legislation and bringing up bills and things like that, not through executive order. Did you know that in the first 3 days of the Biden administration, the first 3 days, let's get that straight, he has enacted more than 19 executive orders, or 19 executive orders, more than the last 4 presidents combined. President Clinton, who was in office for 8 years, he enacted 1. President Bush enacted none in the first 3 days. President Obama enacted 5 within the first 3 days. And President Trump in the first 3 days only enacted 1 executive order. Do you see anything that seems unusual with this Biden and the Democrat Party? I'm not saying they're all that way, because obviously Clinton didn't fall into that line. He only had 1 and he enacted within the first 3 days. But Biden holds first place and President Barack Obama holds second place at 5. This was within the first 3 days. We saw today as Jen I can't pronounce her name, Jen Psaki, I believe her name is, had her press conference, and I noticed she kept pushing off away from the impeachment, talking about, well, President Biden is focusing on the stimulus. She kept saying it's over and over and over again, and avoiding the impeachment issue. Of course, they brought the impeachment issue of President Trump over and over again, but she kept pushing it off, saying that Biden is trying to get things together for the American people and to support the American people, and saying that he's just trying to help everyone in the country or whatever to get back on their feet or whatever. And she also made a statement saying that the first $600 that went out was part of the $2,000 projected need for the American people. So they're pushing right now for an additional $1,400 for those who make a certain income or under a certain income, as they've done in the past. He is protecting every other country through immigration, as we were talking earlier, but he has ignored the safety of our southern borders. Also, we hear from Press Secretary Psaki or Psaki, whatever her name is, that President Biden is also bringing up the Roe versus Wade argument and trying to keep that in the forefront. So she is behind Roe versus Wade, and also President Biden is behind Roe versus Wade, and he's planning on blocking the funds that President Trump was trying to keep away from Mexico in regards to abortions there in Mexico. We spoke of this a little earlier in our interview, but these are some of the things that are going on. Well, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back with you here in a moment on the Black Conservative Voice with David Colbert here on the CTM News Network, the Voice of Truth. Welcome back. You're watching the Black Conservative Voice with David Colbert here on the CTM News Network, the Voice of Truth. Now, on Tuesday, President Joe Biden if you can call him that, signed 3 more executive orders which dismantle former President Trump's border policy. One order will mandate a review of President Trump's migrant protection protocol. One will revoke certain migrant family separations, and another will create a family reunification task force. Also, once again, wasting the taxpayers' money by doing these things to hurt our country and not support its people, just his own party. When President Trump entered into the office of president in 2016, he did what he said he would do and help make America great again. President Biden's answer to what President Trump did is to destroy America. And the work that President Donald J. Trump did so vehemently to lift up the American people and to give us a voice. How was that good for America? The answer is it's not. Wait a minute. President Biden, is this still America? Land of the free, home of the brave, the right to free speech, free enterprise, and basic human rights, and freedoms given under the Constitution of these United States. There's an old saying that goes like this: don't cut off your nose to spite your face. There's actions that are going on today that is going to come back and bite the Democrat Party in the butt. Wait and see. It's coming. Joe Biden's Department of Defense and the Pentagon is now have a new thing. They put somebody else up there. And to me, this let me tell you a little bit before I move on to this. They put an African American gentleman by the name of Lloyd Austin over the Pentagon, of course, in the Department of Defense. He's the Secretary of the Department of Defense. Now, I'm going to tell you, and I'm not saying this is the way it is, but I'm telling you this. There was a gentleman by the name of Idi Amin, and he was one of the worst dictators in the history of the world. He killed his people. He treated his people horribly. He didn't care about them. And there are many horror stories coming from that out of Africa. So we're so bent on saying that, well, Black Americans or African Americans are so great. But now we have somebody which Biden has put in. We got these people coming in. To me, what it is, the way I see it is like this. If you're going to bring blacks or African Americans into our government, blame people of high quality, not people that are out to destroy America along with this crazy president we have sitting in there right now. They accused President Trump of so many different things, but it was all garbage. Most of it was proven to be false. Not most of it, all of it was proven to be false. Yet we refused, the mainstream media refused to tell us about the investigation of Hunter Biden, which was part of his little ring, his little family of Biden's, the Biden gang, or Biden, whatever you want to call it. Some call it the Biden crime family. The firing of President Trump's appointees is this Secretary of Defense's Department of Defense, one of his first things. So the Secretary of the Department of Defense, Secretary Lloyd Austin, ordered hundreds of members of the Pentagon Advisory Board to resign. This came in an effort to block dozens of President Trump appointees from fully settling in to their role. You know, it gets me. I don't know why these people, are you thinking about people's lives? You think about people's livelihoods? And they don't think about your livelihood. President Biden has come in and tried to destroy half the American energy jobs in this country. Us here in Texas, we're going to fight against that garbage. Amen, Texas? However, the mass purging avoided the DOD selectively firing all of the President Trump's appointees. In other words, they're trying to avoid any problem. I don't know how they could get problems. If they followed the law, they wouldn't have this problem. And you know what I call this? I call this discrimination. How can you take a group and go against a group. I don't care what color their skin is, and they're proving right here that discrimination exists. It's not only about the color of a person's skin, and obviously it's about the content of a person's character. In other words, they are taking Martin Luther King's words and flipping them around. Because you got a person with people with good character, and you're discriminating against those people with good character. So we're also discriminating on people with good character. You know, people who are under the Trump administration who cared about the American people. This is something that's been said by the spokesman for the Pentagon. The frenetic activity that occurred to composition of so many boards in just a period of November to January deeply concerned the secretary and certainly helped drive him to his decision, end quote. John Kirby, Pentagon spokesperson. He don't come up with any kind of lie to support this foolishness that they're involved in. Now, all of this affects members until February 16th. In other words, they have till February 16th to either find another job or step down and go out of where they're at. You know, this is an attack on the American people. It's really sad. It's really hard. You know, you supposedly give them with one hand and you take it back with another. And really what it is they're not giving you nothing. What's happening with this thing, even with the stimulus, even though people like me who have small business that were destroyed, we may need help and stuff like that. There are others who have jobs and stuff like that that have been ripped away from them. So you're going to send them a check for $1,400 or $600, whatever it is, for $2,000, and that's supposed to help them when it comes down to their job where they were making $22 and $25 an hour to work. This is Democrat bizarre world because they want you to accept handouts. That's always been their thing in the Democrat Party. Well, we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back with you here in a moment on the Black Conservative Voice with David Colbert here on the CTM News Network, the voice of truth. Welcome back. You're watching the Black Conservative Voice with David Colbert here on the CTM News Network, the voice of truth. Well, Mitch McConnell, Senate minority leader, used to be majority leader, has a little bit of a problem with Joe Biden's choice for DHS Secretary Mayorkas. It seems that as a high-ranking former official with the Biden administration, or the first Biden administration, I'm going to call it, because he just brought back the cronies from the past. Mr. Mayorkas did his best to turn U.S. citizenship and immigration services into an unethical favor factory for the Democratic Party. Royalty, stated Mitch McConnell. Governors, the DNC chair, Hollywood executives, a Senate majority leader from Nevada, they all received special treatment to a degree that stunned and disturbed even the Obama administration own inspector general over that department at that time. And I'll say to him, what do you expect? This is the second Obama administration. We call it Biden administration, but who was campaigning on a trail? Looked a lot like Barack Obama. Anybody notice that? President Biden was sitting in his basement and Barack Obama was out being his mouthpiece. Oh, interesting. We are living under a third Obama administration. That's what we're going to call it. I'm saying it's the second, but it's really the third because he served 2 terms and now he's serving a third term as Joe Biden. You think Joe Biden's getting his information only from people who are in the government now? The man is out of it. He's totally out of it. So somebody's telling him what to do. And he's been pretty much brought back the cronies from Obama administration to finish his destruction of our constitutional government. Let me tell you something. I don't know if you knew it or not, but remember Obama constantly spoke out against this country's U.S. Constitution. Somebody who was supposedly representing us in our constitutional rights as president, that he was set to protect our rights and privileges, but did he really? No. We had some of the worst recovery numbers under him. All kinds of things happened. He also showed a dissatisfaction with the quote unquote capitalist system. Tell me I'm wrong. Do your research. Go back, look at his presidency, look at the things he spoke about. Now, as you saw earlier when we played that video,
those who enter the country illegally and those who employ them disrespect the rule of law, and they are showing disregard for those who are following the law.
All Americans, not only in the states most heavily affected, but in every place in this country, are rightly disturbed by the large numbers of illegal aliens entering our country. The jobs they hold might otherwise be held by citizens or legal immigrants. The public service they use impose burdens on our taxpayers.
Where President Obama sounded a lot like President Donald J. Trump in regard to immigration policy. Also President Clinton. They were for a border wall. They were for keeping the borders closed and close so they could see what was going on. Yet now you have this third administration through Joe Biden, and they seem to be trying to destroy everything. But I'm telling you, what you're going to see what happen once they get it down. What did he say? We're going to build back better. All he's doing, and what I'm afraid of is how many people you're going to hurt when you're destroying that building and trying to build it back better. I told you a few programs ago that what a building back better is an implication that they're going to tear down the first building and to build it back. The Democratic voters keep putting these begets into office and expect something better. The Democrats lost so many constituents in the election in November, they had to manufacture votes to win anything. Yeah, I said it. Didn't say the other word, but they manufactured votes to win these elections. We are looking for more conservative Democrats to help us flip the House in 2022 back to the Republican Party to restore some hope in this country's future. If we survive this year with these radical attacks on governmental policies and the American people by Joseph Biden administration, by the way, what does the Supreme Court do? What do they do again? Anybody know? I thought they protected our constitutional rights. Yet they're being silent. As our free speech is being violated, our rights to keep and bear arms, our rights to vote and have our votes counted correctly. Do you realize that the Democrats are trying to set up a system right now where you vote on your computer, you don't have to come in because we want to protect from COVID-19 or any other disease that's out there. Give me a freaking break. If we live our lives in paranoia, guess what? We're not living. We're scared of our own freaking shadow. I've seen people out there, even Democrats, people, Republicans, stop being scared of your own shadow. I'll tell you right now, there's some enemies inside your body could kill you. So even though we have all these things going on and diseases and flus, the flu kills 60,000 people a year. It's already been proven. The CDC said that only 10% of those people in that 300,000 that first reported on died of COVID-19 alone. Oh, that's right. Hide in their chambers out of the fear of the big bad Democrats. That's what the Supreme Court is doing. You have a leader up there who pretty much, to me, I call him a chicken crap because he didn't want to stand up for what was right. He wanted to stand up for something so he wouldn't look and when he would be lifted up by the Democrat Party. Justice Roberts, to me, is an embarrassment to conservatives and Republicans in the House and Senate because we put them in there in that place to give some sense to our Constitution. We put our latest member in the Constitution, not a Constitution, but to support constitutional law, Amy Coney Barrett. And I'm praying as the time goes on that they would stop getting into this thing where you have people refusing to hear cases. It looks like to me there's only a couple of justices right now that have the guts to stand up to the Democrats and the cronies there on their side of the fence. Well, we're going to take a short break right now, and we'll be right back with you here in a moment with our closing statement. Welcome back. You're watching the Black Conservative Voice with David Colbert here on the CTM News Network, The Voice of Truth. Well, once again, I'd like to thank Ms. Teresa Strick, the Director of Life First, I believe, here in Montgomery County, and all those who stand up for the lives of the unborn, the babies that have been killed, millions of babies that have been killed over the years. And I want to say this. I said this in the other program the other night. African American, Black people, stop killing your babies. Stop killing your posterity. Stop it. Because you're saying you're a minority. What do you want to be, a minority forever? We're having enough babies where we could probably be a majority. But yet we're killing as many as are being born. What does that say? We're trying to destroy our own self. We're causing a genocide within our own communities. Just because children are growing up in poor areas, here in this country, they give you money left and right for babies. And I've known some people taking advantage of that. But as far as these individuals that are getting abortions left and right, we talked about it earlier, the highest rate of abortions occur among the African American people, the Black people. Well, once again, I want to thank you for joining us here on the Black Conservative Voice with David Colbert here on the CTM News Network, The Voice of Truth. And I'm going to say what I always like to say to you before I leave you. God bless you, God bless America, and God bless the world. Until next time, this is David Colbert on the CTM News Network, The Voice of Truth, saying good night and God bless.